Welcome to our lesson on the classification of living organisms. The key questions for today are: how are organisms classified? What is the Linnaean system for classification? How have advances in science affected classification? What is the domain system of classification? What do evolutionary trees show? The key terms that you will need to know are classification, genus, species, binomial, domain. In the 18th century, taxonomist Carl Linnaeus developed a system of grouping living organisms based on their features. Assigning organisms to groups based on a certain criterion is called classification. The first grouping in the Linnaean system is to divide organisms into the 5 kingdoms: animals, plants, fungi, protists, prokaryotes. Following this grouping is phylum, which includes chordata, which is organisms that have a backbone; arthropod, which are organisms with an exoskeleton and legs with joints; annelids, which have segmented bodies. Following phylum is class. This includes mammals, fish and reptiles as some examples. The next division is class and includes primates and carnivores. Order is the next division, which is broken down into families. Following families is genus and species. These final two give the binomial name for an organism. The binomial name for an organism is the genus and species given in Latin. Latin was the language of choice, as no country spoke Latin at the time, and so it could be adopted worldwide without unfairness. This meant that all over the world, a specific organism would have the same binomial name. This is very useful, as different countries and areas have different names for organisms, so this avoids any confusion. Take a woodlouse as an example. The binomial name is Oniscus asellus, but names it is called vary depending on the country or even the region. Here are a few: cheesy bug, slater, gramphor, chuggy pig, crunchy bat, pill bug, wood bug. You can see why it can get confusing. Naming organisms in a consistent way across the world is very important. For example, in medicine, as ingredients for medicines; in science, to share and validate research; even cooking, as poisonous plants must be identified accurately. This is why the binomial system was adopted. Task: the dodo bird is called a Rhaphus cucullatus. What is the genus and species of the dodo? Rhaphus is the gene and cucullatus is the species. The Linnaean classification system includes several layers of grouping. This means that organisms are grouped with others that have similar characteristics. However, only certain things could be observed at the time, as equipment was not as well developed as today. As technological developments occurred, more detailed examinations were able to take place, and more divisions and groupings were created to advance the classification system. Scientists were able to analyse organisms on a cellular level and make divisions based on cell biochemistry. Chemical analysis led to the development of the 3-domain system by Carl Woese. This put all organisms into 3 groups: archaea, primitive bacteria that often inhabit extreme environments, such as hot sulfur vents under the sea; prokaryote, more modern bacteria; eukaryota, complex multicellular organisms, such as plants and animals, as well as fungi and protists. This example shows the classification of a type of bear. It uses the domain system and the Linnaean system. This example shows the classification of a type of fox. Task: compare the bear and the fox. Up to which point are the classifications the same? Both the fox and the bear belong to the domain Eukaryota, the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, the class Mammalia, and the order Carnivora. From this point onwards, the classification is different. Evolutionary tree diagrams are used to show how closely related different species are. Branches that are from the same larger branch show a close relationship, such as chimpanzees and humans, or crocodiles and birds. But branches that are further apart, like insects and snakes, shows that they are not closely related. Task: looking at this tree, what organism is the closest relative to cows? The answer is whales. Extension: explain how closely related ferns and palms are. Ferns and palms are on the same larger branch, showing that they are related but not closely. Palms are more closely related to grasses and bananas than ferns. Scientists use modern technologies and chemical analysis, as well as visual observations, to classify living organisms now. Any extinct organisms are classified using fossil evidence. This is not as accurate, so some ancestral relationships are not confirmed.